to settle down in Shanghai. This girl agreed not to give a wedding gift to her mother-in-law. Her biological mother actually demanded a bride price of 600,000 yuan, with the real purpose of buying a marital home for her youngest son. But Shirley's family simply couldn't come up with that much money right now. In the end, Lu Ying had no choice but to seek help from her mother again. She knelt in front of her mother's house, only to find that the door was opened by her younger brother. She was even more surprised that her mother-in-law's entire family would be present. There seemed to be joy in this awkward atmosphere. It turned out her mother-in-law had come prepared today. Although her family couldn't afford a sky-high bride price now, she had a family heirloom jade bracelet. Decades ago, this bracelet was worth hundreds of thousands, so it's easy to imagine that now it is at least worth over $1 million. When Lu Ying's mother saw this, her eyes flashed with greed. Not long after her mother-in-law's family left, she couldn't wait to pull out the receipt for the bracelet. Look, in 2000 a bracelet was worth 150,000 yuan, and 20 years later, it soared just like Shanghai's housing prices. Such an expensive bracelet was too precious for Lu Ying to accept, so she chased after her, hoping to return it to her mother-in-law. But how could her mother-in-law take back something that was given away? Lu Ying was so moved that she hugged her mother-in-law tightly. "Thank you, Mom." Having such a loving mother-in-law, Lu Ying felt she was the happiest daughter-in-law in the world. Little did they know, behind this million-yuan bracelet lay a tremendous secret. Soon after, her wedding with Shirley arrived as scheduled. With the blessings of all the relatives and friends in the audience, Lu Ying wore the family heirloom gifted to her by her mother-in-law. But her own mother only gave her 8 quilts as a dowry. But just as Lu Ying was still recovering from the joy of marriage, she received another piece of news that broke her down. That day, she brought a bracelet to the company to give wedding candies to her colleagues. A colleague discovered that her mother-in-law had actually given her that especially valuable bracelet directly. But at that moment, a troublesome colleague arrived. She said directly, "She thinks this bracelet isn't worth that much. Have those two never been beaten up by someone they know?" At that time, Lu Ying simply thought her colleagues were just jealous. Lu Ying didn't care what they said, exchanged a few casual greetings, and left. Unexpectedly, her colleague even went home to get her own bracelet, insisting on comparing it to Lu Ying's. As a result, all the colleagues began to doubt the value of Lu Ying's bracelet. Whether it was the bracelet's quality or temperature, the obvious differences made Lu Ying very uneasy. So she hired an expert to appraise it, only to find that her bracelet was made from scraps of jade and glued, and its value was less than the packaging box. Moreover, if she wears them frequently, it can also lead to infertility. But the certificate on this bracelet was genuinely real. At first, she thought her mother-in-law wanted to get something for nothing, wanting her to marry into the Shir family without a bride price. But when they were choosing the wedding venue, her mother-in-law was very enthusiastic. She even deliberately chose an expensive auditorium. So she felt her mother-in-law had also been deceived. To avoid alerting anyone, she chose to remain silent. But by chance, his sister-in-law Shi Zhouxing suddenly invited her out for a drink. As a result, she got drunk and was sent home by Lu Ying. While Lu Ying was handing her pajamas, she suddenly saw an identical bracelet in the walk-in closet. So she used her own bracelet as a comparison. At that moment, Zhou Xian's adoptive mother suddenly barged in. Lu Ying's expression was extremely flustered. But the next day, Shirley was called home by his parents. They called Shirley and said Lu Ying stole something. At that moment, Shirley's aunt suddenly revealed the truth about the bracelet. The bracelet was originally meant for Lu Ying, but Shirley's mother secretly gave it to Zhou Xian instead. Later, she brought a fake bracelet and a real invoice to fool Lu Ying, and she definitely wasn't willing. Only then did Shirley understand what was going on. When Lu Ying's parents demanded a bride price of 660,000 yuan, his mother used the prestige of a million-yuan family heirloom bracelet to give Lu Ying a fake street vendor bracelet, while the real one was given to her own daughter. He now began to suspect that Lu Ying had learned the truth. That's why she secretly swapped the real bracelet back. When Shirley got home, he told Lu Ying about the situation, and his attitude was very unpleasant. "The whole family knows about you taking Zhou Xian's bracelet." Zhou Xian said, "I'll give you this bracelet. Are you satisfied now?" But Lu Ying also felt very wronged. Such a major incident at home had happened, yet no one came to ask her why. Instead, they accused her of being a thief behind her back. What made her even angrier was yet to come. Shirley clearly knew the heirloom was fake, yet he still had Lu Ying personally apologize to his parents. "Since my sister said I'll give you the bracelet, then tomorrow I'll go with you to apologize to my parents, and this matter will be settled." But Lu Ying thought the bracelet was originally hers. If she remembered correctly, this bracelet was passed down to her by his mother as a family heirloom. As a result, she gave the real bracelet to her own daughter and gave the fake bracelet to Lu Ying. Why should she apologize? And his mother had already admitted it. If she wanted her to apologize, Shirley's mother should come and apologize to Lu Ying first. But Shirley thought, after all, she's his mother, and she's already so old. It's not appropriate for her to come and apologize to Lu Ying. Whoever is at fault should apologize. A so-called family is when the daughter-in-law can apologize to her mother-in-law. But since the mother-in-law was at fault first, she can't come forward and apologize because she's an elder. Where exactly does the phrase family really reflect? Originally, the bracelet was meant as a bride price for Lu Ying, but after everyone realized it was fake, not a single person stood up to defend her. In fact, Lu Ying did not mean to take the bracelet. At that time, because Zhou Xian was so drunk he was like a mush. When she was getting pajamas for Zhou Xian in the walk-in closet, she accidentally found an identical bracelet, so she curiously compared it to her own, because by then she already knew her bracelet was fake. But at that moment, her mother-in-law suddenly rushed in to grab something. In her panic, Lu Ying accidentally brought the real bracelet with her. Afterwards, she realized she had taken the wrong bracelet, but she kept thinking about how to return the bracelet. So she invited Zhou Xian to her home for a talk. But coincidentally, the company happened to have something to do for her to go back. That's why she never had the chance to speak clearly. Despite all the arguments, Lu Ying never intended to ask for a single cent as a bride price, so the real or fake bracelets now meant nothing to her. So the next day, she followed Shirley to invite his mother out for a meal. Originally, she wanted to apologize for her theft, but unexpectedly, her mother-in-law started making subtle insults. Fortunately, Shirley stepped forward to speak up for Lu Ying this time. Otherwise, today's dinner would have turned into a hongmen banquet. Shirley's mother picked up a soup dumpling. She found that the soup dumplings were torn. Lu Ying told her to give her this broken food to eat. Shirley's mother suddenly asked her, "Why are you in such a hurry to switch?" She said, "Am I begging you to change it? You don't need to rush to replace it, right? Just like that bracelet." Shirley, standing nearby, sensed something was wrong and directly blamed his mother. First of all, she was at fault. She gave the bracelet as a family heirloom to Lu Ying, but she gave it to someone else instead. What kind of situation is that? Has she considered Lu Ying's feelings? Before the wedding, her mother-in-law gave her a fake bracelet as a bride price and gave the real bracelet to her own daughter. But after marriage, her mother-in-law didn't even want to add her name to the bridal house. How is this any different from deceiving the marriage? Fortunately, her relationship with Shirley was strong. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to get married now. After they returned home, Shirley saw Lu Ying feeling down, so he tried to ease her relationship with his mother. So he revealed the biggest family secret to Lu Ying. It turned out that the cousin Lu Ying thought was actually Shirley's own younger sister. His mother is Zhou Xian's biological mother. It turned out that when Zhou Xian was very young, his father suddenly fell seriously ill while working in another city. His mother entrusted Zhou Xian to his aunt's home to care for him. So Zhou Xian grew up with his aunt. At the same time, because of Zhou Xian's presence, his aunt never considered having her own child. They already treated Zhou Xian like their own daughter. So his mother gave him the real bracelet, aiming to win Zhou Xian's help so he could return to the Shi family. Only then did Lu Ying suddenly understand, so it all made sense. No wonder she gave the real bracelet to Zhou Xian. At the same time, she envied Zhou Xian for having two mothers and loving her so much. Meanwhile, her own mother wanted to buy a marital home for her brother. She actually sold Lu Ying for an astronomical bride price. If Lu Ying's mother now knew the bracelet was fake, her mother-in-law's family would surely face a bloody storm. The next night, just as Lu Ying was leaving the company after work, she saw Zhou Xian blocking her at the door. Frightened, she ran back and hid behind the door. She had thought Zhou Xinlai wanted to return the real bracelet she had taken, but unexpectedly, she discovered something even more shocking. Zhou Xian dragged a man, arguing as they walked. It turned out she wanted the man to discuss divorce with his wife. She and his wife had no objections, but the man hid away. He also told Zhou Xian directly that no matter what, he would never divorce. After the man left, Zhou Xian found Lu Ying. Lu Ying thought Zhou Xian was clinging to a married man, so she shyly advised him not to destroy someone else's family. But Zhou Xian generously handed over a business card. She was the lawyer representing his wife in the divorce matters. Today, she appears as a lawyer. The man was caught cheating while his wife was pregnant, so the woman sought a divorce and left the scumbag with nothing. Only then did Lu Ying realize it was all a misunderstanding. Because the scumbag was an employee at Lu Ying's company, she helped Zhou Xian investigate. She told Zhou Xian about the scumbag's business dealings, and they found he had been falsifying reimbursements and often used public funds to stay with the mistress. As a result, Lu Ying not only found evidence for Zhou Xian, but also helped her own company eliminate a bad person. Through this incident, their relationship also became very good. But then something strange happened. Her mother-in-law suddenly became very gentle, even inviting Lu Ying to enjoy various pleasures and expenses, and the two took many beautiful photos together. She thought her mother-in-law really treated her like a daughter. As the saying goes, flattering for no reason is either a thief or a thief. You can imagine how spicy her mother-in-law's ginger is. Soon, her mother-in-law couldn't wait to express her purpose. Every year on her birthday, she celebrates it with Aunt Shirley. This year, they were going to Sanya, and their birthday couldn't be celebrated again. She told Lu Ying that her wife definitely couldn't compare to her daughter, but she was also half a daughter. This phrase, half a daughter, greatly increased Lu Ying's sense of happiness. Her mother-in-law bluntly said, "I really don't know if you're truly innocent or naive. See if you can help me. Go talk to them and ask if they can come over to my house for a meal before going to Sanya." Even now, Lu Ying still hasn't noticed anything. Little did they know, the upcoming birthday banquet. This made her fully understand. A daughter-in-law is still a daughter-in-law and can never replace Zhou Xian, her biological daughter. One day, Lu Ying deliberately bought new clothes just for her father-in-law, hoping to annoy her mother-in-law. Although her mother-in-law could tell it was discount, but she didn't expect her daughter-in-law to be so arrogant. Women's clothes are not very different from men's. Their styles and fabrics really can't be tried on. So she only bought clothes from her father-in-law and her mother-in-law's clothes to discuss in a couple of days. To avoid embarrassing his mother, Shirley sat down and started flattering her. But Lu Ying still felt it wasn't enough, so she mentioned her mother-in-law's favorite daughter, Zhou Xian, saying she and Zhou Xian get along very well and that they even plan to go shopping together next week. Her mother-in-law immediately had a mischievous idea, because next week was her birthday, but Zhou Xian was always lukewarm toward her. To see Zhou Xian at the birthday party, she wanted to use Lu Ying to invite Zhou Xian over. She took the initiative to supervise the renovation of their marital home. But on her very first day as director, she staged a tragic scene. She sent Shirley many photos from the scene, along with a voice message that sounded touching. "Son, don't worry, I'll keep an eye on things for you. I'm having breakfast now." There was only a glass of cold water and a cake. How pitiful are all parents' hearts. After hearing this, Shirley felt he had let his mother down. She had just retired and was already helping him with everything. So he sent Lu Ying a voice message. He thinks he's especially unfilial. He told his mother to go to the construction site early in the morning, while he was still eating plain steamed buns and drinking cold water. But Lu Ying just smiled without saying a word, and then she sent him a video. It turned out Lu Ying had already delivered the meal, but this old lady was just too good at adding drama to herself. Lu Ying naturally understood her mother-in-law's intention, so she brought the bracelet to see Stephen Chow, believing it should be returned to its rightful owner. She told Zhou Xian, "Actually, from beginning to end, you were rejecting her love, and her proof of love for you is everywhere, like this bracelet. The money for this bracelet was specially saved by her for your study abroad. But just before boarding, you told her you were leaving, and she used that money to buy the bracelet and has been waiting for you to come back. Next week, my mother-in-law's birthday party will be at my and Shirley's home. Do you two want to take a step forward together? You make your own decisions." Lu Ying wasn't sure if Zhou Xian would come, but to make her mother-in-law happy, she lied and said Zhou Xian had promised to come next week. When her mother-in-law heard this, she was overjoyed and then pulled Lu Ying to buy new clothes. When her mother-in-law went in to try on clothes, the salesperson said her mother-in-law had also custom-made a qipao for her, and the fabric was all imported from abroad. After returning, she started choosing pearl earrings, insisting they match the qipao her mother-in-law had given her. But on his birthday, her mother-in-law actually brought 2 qipaos. Lu Ying's happy eyes kept staring at the qipao, and she even hinted that Shirley's dress was bought by her mother-in-law. But Zhou Xian did not disappoint Lu Ying. She even specially bought a very expensive necklace for Lu Ying's mother-in-law. Once the family was gathered, Lu Ying also prepared to change into a qipao. But at this point, an awkward situation arose. Shirley suggested taking a family photo. Lu Ying felt that before taking photos, she should change clothes. Unexpectedly, after the clothes were brought over, Lu Ying's mother-in-law handed them to Zhou Xian. Lu Ying looked very embarrassed. Shirley noticed this. He could see how upset she was at that moment. Then Lu Ying remembered what Shirley had once told her. Mother and daughter are mother and daughter. Mother-in-law and daughter-in-law are mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. Family relationships should come naturally. You can't force them. If you can't handle this matter, what follows will definitely break you down. Lu Ying's mother-in-law actually asked Lu Ying to take a family portrait of them. This proves that the mother-in-law doesn't see Lu Ying as family at all. Shirley said that phones now have delay features. Lu Ying could take a family photo with him, but his mother still casually refused him. Zhou Xing never wanted to get involved in this mess. She could only say she wasn't ready yet. What was supposed to be a harmonious family birthday party was almost turned into a farewell dinner by Lu Ying's mother-in-law. Lu Ying had no choice but to cry and ask her mother-in-law what exactly she was lacking compared to her daughter. Just how terrifying is a family that favors sons over daughters? When Liu Ying's mother learned that her daughter was getting married, she immediately demanded a bride price of 660,000 yuan, and then used the money to buy a marital home for her son. But Shirley's family simply couldn't come up with that much money. They used a bracelet worth 1,000,000 yuan as a bride price. However, just as the wedding ended, Liu Ying's mother couldn't wait to put the bracelet on her own wrist, saying she wanted to take it back to the countryside to help Liu Ying keep it. But Liu Ying knew very well that her mother had ulterior motives. She intended to take the bracelet and sell it so she could help her son buy a marital home. Liu Ying immediately refused. In the end, her mother couldn't take the bracelet with her. But not long after, Liu Ying suddenly received a call from her mother. She had inexplicably come to Shanghai to visit Liu Ying and even brought her favorite corn from the countryside. Liu Ying's tears instantly burst forth because since she was little, this was the first time her mother had cared for her. After arriving home, Liu Ying asked her why she had come, but her mother calmly said she was just there to take care of her daughter. But given Liu Ying's understanding of her mother since childhood, she must have something to ask of her this time. The next morning, as soon as Liu Ying got up, she saw her mother making breakfast for her in the kitchen, saying she had gotten up at 3 a.m. to make chicken soup for her. Her sudden concern moved Liu Ying somewhat, and gradually, she came to believe her mother was there to take care of her. But not even a day had passed. She couldn't wait to open Liu Ying's safe, only to be caught red-handed by Liu Ying after work. She directly asked her mother, "Is this the purpose of her visit this time?" Yesterday, Liu Ying was still curious why she came to Shanghai. She also told Liu Ying that she came to see her, but now it wasn't even 24 hours. Liu Ying hoped her mother wouldn't be so greedy. Whatever she wanted, Liu Ying could buy it for her. But unexpectedly, her mother took out a gold bracelet, intending to surprise her. Since she saw it, she just gave it to Liu Ying directly. This reversal left Liu Ying at a loss. Her mother said she owed her too much since childhood, and when she got married, she only brought 8 quilts as part of her dowry, so she added a gold bracelet to her. She wanted to quietly put it in the safe, but couldn't open it no matter what. She was planning to go back to her hometown. Otherwise, if she stayed here, Liu Ying would be annoyed just looking at her. She planned to go back tonight. This made Liu Ying apologize repeatedly, feeling she misunderstood her mother. Liu Ying originally thought her mother was after the jade bracelet. This time, she completely believed her mother wanted to treat her well, and then she cried with both grievance and guilt. But the next day, while they were shopping for clothes, her mother finally revealed her true nature from the trip. After answering a phone call, she panicked, and Liu Ying anxiously asked what had happened. She was still hiding when she was on the phone. Her mother lied that a new leader had joined Liu Ying's father's company. Because she loved Jade appraisal, she held an appraisal competition at the end of the month. But since his family didn't have any jade, she thought of Liu Ying's 1,000,000 yuan jade bracelet. By now, Liu Ying understood everything. So in front of her mother, she directly replied to her father, "That bracelet is no longer in her hands. No matter how much you chase after her mother, it's useless." Then she told her mother that the bracelet had already been returned to her mother-in-law because that didn't belong to her in the first place. She wouldn't want something so vague and unclear. But soon after, her mother came to find her in-laws, and the two mothers got into a fight on the street. Liu Ying's mother tore her mother-in-law's hair all over the floor. A passing vendor met Liu Ying and Shirley, who told them what had happened. Liu Ying's mother even deceived her own daughter to buy a marital home for her son, even sacrificing her own savings. But the moment her daughter learned the truth, their 27-year mother-daughter relationship ended. This has finally come to an end. One day, Liu's mother, who had always treated her daughter like an enemy, suddenly came to Shanghai, falsely claiming she was there to take care of her newly married daughter Liu Ying. This left Liu Ying very puzzled. But while puzzled, she guessed her mother's purpose in this trip. It must be a gift for her mother-in-law, that expensive family heirloom. But the next day, she gave up on that idea. Her mother suddenly spent a fortune to buy her a gold bracelet. She said, "I just want her to know that my daughter is different. She can afford bracelets from others. I even have my own bracelet." This was the first time in her life that Liu Ying had experienced love from her mother, from being inexperienced to marrying and having children. The long-lost sense of happiness also made her let down her guard against her mother. Why do people say that the kinder a person is, the more ruthless they are in the end? That's because his kindness hasn't disappeared. It's just that I don't care about you anymore. The next day, during a casual chat with Liu Ying, Liu's mother discovered that the bracelet originally given as a bride price to her daughter had actually returned to her mother-in-law's hands. At that moment, her mother-in-law was planning to return the bracelet to Liu Ying. But unexpectedly, at that moment, Liu's mother suddenly came to visit. Since the two families had little contact to begin with, her mother-in-law directly asked her about the purpose of the trip. Liu Ying's mother said, "Didn't we agree before we got married? Take out your heirloom bracelet. This is treated as a bride price for my daughter, right? But you swap that bracelet and put it on your own daughter. That's not good for you. Think about it. Everyone knows how your daughter treats you now. Liu Ying's mother-in-law originally didn't want to have any more conflicts with Liu Ying. But her bottom line was that no one could speak ill of her biological daughter, Zhou Xian. About the bracelet, I want to tell you today. When will the bracelet be returned to its rightful owner and returned to my daughter? Originally, Liu Ying's mother-in-law planned to return the bracelet, but after Liu's mother came to make such a scene, all the contradictions returned to square one. Seeing that she had no intention of returning the property to its rightful owner, Liu's mother dragged her out onto the street to demand an explanation. He even called her a wicked mother-in-law. She really didn't expect that she had only stir-fried tomato and eggs. She ran over here and made a scene. At that moment, Liu Ying and Shirley were about to go to her mother-in-law's house, but were caught by neighbors who wanted to call the police. The two mothers fought fiercely, but fortunately, they arrived in time and there were no casualties. But Li Shuangqing had lived in this alley her whole life, and she had never been so humiliated as she was today. She didn't even want to see her own son. Shirley's father was also angry and told him to go back and bring Liu Ying to apologize. On the other side, Liu's mother acted as if nothing had happened. At this moment, Liu Ying still greeted her with a smile, because she had already learned her mother's true nature. That day, when her mother went to the bathroom, she opened the chat history between her mother and father. Her father anxiously asked if her mother had asked about Liu Ying's bracelet. Her mother also replied that it was being planned. Nothing was more important than her son's house. As her mother was leaving, Liu Ying actually gave the bracelet to her mother. But in her expression, all she showed was ruthlessness. They were waiting for the bus. Liu's mother couldn't wait to see the bracelet, but when she opened the box, she realized it was the gold bracelet she had given Liu Ying. This is the true return of things to their rightful owners, and it also means Liu Ying is no longer her daughter. This girl actually stole things to buy a house. She stole a bracelet worth millions. But at that moment, Liu Ying's mother-in-law suddenly fell seriously ill and had to sell the bracelet to pay the high surgery fees. But when she got home to get the bracelet, she realized it had been swapped. After much thought, she finally remembered what her best friend had said. That's the down payment for a house. Why are you going back? It's not sincerely given to me, so why would I keep it? Then keeping it can be used urgently later, like me, for emergency relief in the martial world. Although Liu Ying didn't want to believe her best friend would do such a thing, her mother-in-law's life was what mattered most. So she brought a fake bracelet to her best friend to check on Xiaoming. Xiaoming, did you switch to my bracelet? What evidence do you have to label me? Because you know the password to my safe, and you've asked me many times to say you want to take this bracelet. I used to think you were joking. At this point, Xiaoming still stubbornly refused to admit it. But Liu Yingyan had been their best friends for over 20 years. If she admitted it now and returned it, it would still be too late. But Xiaoming still looked like she was wronged. But by checking Xiaoming's expression, Liu Ying can be certain that she took the bracelet. In fact, Xiaoming had already sold the bracelet, and it was sold for $1 million. Then she bought a house in downtown Shanghai for $1 million. She bought a 100 square meter 3-bedroom, 2-living-room apartment. However, she did all this because of her boyfriend. She and Mai Tong had been in love in Shanghai for 5 years. Her boyfriend was just a furniture renovation worker, and he wanted to buy a house in Shanghai through his own efforts. But that was just a pipe dream. Every time, the two argued non-stop over the house, which led Xiaoming to think of getting something for nothing. Then she brought the purchase contract to Mai Tong. Only then did Mai Tong understand why Liu Ying had sought him out before. If you notice any major investments or large transactions recently, please be sure to let me know. What kind of large amount of money could she possibly have? Although Mai Tong didn't know where Xiaoming's money came from, he was certain it was related to Liu Ying. But no matter how much he pressed her, Xiaoming just wouldn't speak. When Liu Ying found out, she immediately went to find Xiaoming, but she never expected that she would deny it and insist on cutting ties with Liu Ying forever. From the moment you planned to steal my bracelet, you don't even consider me a friend, so what nonsense are you spouting here? This handwritten ticket was written for Liu Ying when she was a child, because at that time Liu Ying was going to Shanghai for university, and Xiaoming failed to get in due to poor grades. So she handwrote a ticket for Xiaoming. I've always been here. As long as you come to Shanghai, I'll take full responsibility for you. This is also the most important piece of paper between their best friends. But at that moment, Xiaoming tore it to pieces. Liu Ying finally stopped being polite with her. No matter where you sold the bracelet, redeem it, or I won't let you off. At the same time, Liu Ying's mother-in-law urgently needs a heart transplant surgery. Otherwise, she might not be able to see the Spring Festival fireworks. Only then did Liu Ying tell Shirley about the bracelet. To save his mother, Shirley planned to call the police. But Liu Ying still wanted to give Xiaoming another chance. Shirley knew about her relationship with Xiaoming, so he could only temporarily choose to endure. What does your mother-in-law's illness have to do with me? Lu Ying told her. Shirley said yesterday that he wanted to call the police, and I stopped him. Because I want to give you one last chance for the sake of our years of friendship. But she said, you've been holding on to this matter all along. Even if the police come, they need evidence. By the time the police find you, it'll be too late, you know? Cha Xiaoming. Cha Xiaoming's attitude of not shedding tears until the coffin left Lu Ying completely disappointed. But Cha Xiaoming lives in a 100-square-meter apartment in Shanghai, but eats instant noodles. This is exactly what they call a pitiful person who must have something hateful. Lu Ying has repeatedly urged her to return the bracelet, but Cha Xiaoming stubbornly refuses to admit it, even trying to prove her innocence by cutting ties. But Lu Ying, who values her feelings, now has no way to deal with her. If my mother-in-law hadn't urgently needed to sell her bracelet for surgery, I don't think she would have pursued this matter further. After learning the whole story, Mai Tong went to find Cha Xiaoming. Because things haven't escalated to legal issues yet, it's too late to regret everything. But faced with Cha Xiaoming's lack of remorse, Mai Tong ultimately chose to let things slide. But Cha Xiaoming now can't live without Mai Tong. Everything she does is to ease his burden, but she forgets that there are no shortcuts in life. Now you want to control me, huh? Are you worthy? Are you worthy? The two had been in love for a full 5 years, and Mai Tong believed she was just momentarily confused. That line, waiting for you at home, was also a way out for her. It was only then that Cha Xiaoming fully came to her senses. Although she had bought a house, she had also lost her lover and best friend. The next day, she returned the house and came to find Zhou Xin with 1 million yuan. Because if Cha Xiaoming doesn't show up today, Zhou Xin will become Lu Ying's entrusted lawyer. She confessed that Lu Ying took the bracelet herself, and she sold it for 1 million to buy a house. Now that she has returned the house, she has recovered every penny of the money. She didn't want to owe anyone. Zhou Xin told her, how can you say it so confidently? If you want to buy a house, you steal from your best friend. Now you want to repent. Should she accept it? Do you even want her to be grateful? Why? I said, I can take full responsibility. You tell me what I should do? I can turn myself in. Do you know what this bracelet means to my family now? Can you take responsibility? Let me tell you, if you can't get the bracelet back, you'll owe Lu Ying for the rest of your life. Then I owe you. I'll turn myself in. But she stood in front of the police station for a long time without going in, constantly thinking about what Shi Zhouxin had just said to her. You can't get the bracelet back. You'll owe Lu Ying for the rest of your life. Only then did she think of going to redeem the bracelet. Shi Zhouxin seemed to guess what she wanted to do, so she called Lu Ying to notify her. But what has been sold? How could it possibly be redeemed? Even if you want to redeem it, it can't be the original price. Moreover, the owner claimed the bracelet was no longer there. He had already transferred it to someone else. That's not mine. It's someone else's thing I stole. Who did you sell it to? Because the owner was reselling items of unknown origin, Shi Zhouxin had no choice but to seek legal means to recover the bracelet. No matter who the owner gave the bracelet to, he has now broken the law. But then the boss produced the guarantee letter from that time. But this boss didn't seem to understand the law. The bracelet you bought was indeed stolen by this young lady from me. It's stolen property. What does what she stole have to do with me? I contacted several professional appraisal agencies and experts to prepare this appraisal report. The price on the report is far higher than what you quoted to this lady. So I have reason to believe that you knowingly made the transaction while it was stolen property, a sale of stolen goods. I didn't even sell my bracelet. What crime did I commit? It seems this boss knows the law well. He hadn't used the bracelet until now, probably worried someone would come after him afterward. Then Cha Xiaoming took out the 1 million, and the boss thought it was better to avoid trouble. In the end, the bracelet was returned to Cha Xiaoming. At that moment, Lu Ying was waiting for her at the door. I know there's no medicine for regret in this world, but I still want to say sorry. Do you feel like you're stepping on cotton right now? You can scold me a bit, but forgive me. Lu Ying originally didn't want to be friends with Cha Xiaoming anymore, but unexpectedly, she also took out a ticket. You brought me from a small town to Shanghai. You found me a job, introduced me to a boyfriend, cared about me so much, but I lost you. Can you accept my ticket? Let's talk about it later. Lu Ying, if you keep educating Shirley like this, one day he'll become a mama's boy. Do you understand? The wicked mother-in-law and her daughter-in-law finally began a direct confrontation. It was precisely because of Lu Ying's unintentional call of a mama's boy that yet she directly pushed Shirley into a bottomless abyss. On this day, Lu Ying was promoted from HR supervisor to HR director. but the condition was that she had to buy 200,000 yuan in company stock options. But she and Shirley spent all their money on a marital home and preparing for the wedding. Now, their wallets are emptier than their faces. Shirley originally wanted to pawn the heirloom bracelet, but Lu Ying was a woman with a strong sense of boundaries. She couldn't sell her mother-in-law's heirloom just for her own promotion. But Shirley doted on his wife very much, so he went home to lie to his mother. He said he wanted to buy options, but didn't dare mention Lu Ying at all. It's good for banks to let you buy options, but you must make sure it's safe. Unaware of the situation, Lu Ying invited her mother-in-law out the next day to get her manicures done to thank her. But during their casual chat, they got exposed. "Mom, you said Shirtu also has 200,000 in options? You can't be mistaken, are you? Is it our company that wants to buy options?" This time, Shirley's good days were over, and his image as a good man was fully showcased. But this time, Lu Ying completely miscalculated. She became what her mother-in-law called a bad daughter-in-law. At this point, the money was already unavailable in the company account, so Lu Ying decided to pay it back to her mother-in-law in installments. The next day, Shirley came to act cute with his mother, and she showed what it means to be a real actor. "The money I gave you was borrowed from Aunt Mao. My mother said the 200,000 yuan was borrowed from the neighbor next door. Aunt Mao had just been diagnosed with a serious illness and needed treatment, so she couldn't delay others' treatment and wanted to return the 200,000 yuan to Aunt Mao as soon as possible." Soon, Lu Ying received the news and immediately brought gifts to visit Aunt Mao. But before she even entered the house, she saw Aunt Mao watering the flowers at the door. "Aunt Mao, I heard you seem to be sick, right? So I specially brought some supplements to visit you." "Who said I'm sick? My mother-in-law said you are seriously ill and close to death." "That's nonsense. I'm not sick. Do you think I'm fine?" "Where is she sick?" "No." Right now, Lu Ying felt like she was about to smile but frown. As soon as she got home, she saw her mother-in-law waiting for her. She changed her shoes and sat down. "I have something to discuss with you properly. We can't talk today, let's talk another day." "Sure to, have a good chat with Mom." This direct impact made her mother-in-law very embarrassed. At this moment, Lu Ying was also suppressing the anger in his heart. As a result, the two started attacking Shirley from behind a mountain. Lu Ying wants to buy options. She can figure it out herself. She has parents too. She could ask her mom to borrow money. "No need to let you come home and trick me. Where did you find such a wife? Were you instigated to live off your parents? Let's clarify this matter now, and you come with me." "Mom, let me tell you, if you keep teaching Shirtu like this, one day, he will become a mama's boy, you know?" Lu Ying said she didn't have a single cent at the moment, but they had a marital home with Shirtu. Although the property deed didn't mention Lu Ying, all the renovation costs for the bridal home were paid for by her. If the mother-in-law wants to get the 200,000 yuan back right now, then convert the money from renovating the marital home into the money now, and then she will return the 200,000 yuan to her without missing a cent. As soon as her mother-in-law heard this, she immediately stopped being arrogant, because the renovation cost far exceeded the 200,000 yuan. Most importantly, Lu Ying's name was not yet on the property deed. Seeing that hard methods wouldn't work, my mother-in-law decided to go soft. But she never expected that the pit she had dug would ultimately lead to her own downfall. At a time like this, how could you be upset with your mother-in-law? I asked Aunt Mao about the money she borrowed. This was her life-saving money. Before I just came back, I had already visited Aunt Mao's house. I brought her a whole bunch of supplements, and she was really happy. That's enough. Who are you talking to? I'm talking to you. Then we haven't done anything wrong, and you can blame us like grandsons. If you do something wrong, I just say a word to you. What's wrong with that? I'm someone who's about to die. What reason are you trying to reason with me? Everyone has to die. Do you think you're anything special? When the woman took advantage of her mother-in-law's serious illness to speak rudely, her weak mother-in-law immediately stood up and argued with her. Are you trying to annoy me? You've driven me crazy, so the house is yours, right? What are their intentions? I was already scheming and scheming. Lu Ying was sharp-tongued and refused to back down in the slightest. But beneath her wicked daughter-in-law facade, there was a hidden filial heart. Li Shuangqing had been the head nurse all her life. Now, after retirement, she has developed a heart dilation syndrome. With conservative treatment, there are still 5 years to live. To completely cure it, a heart transplant is required. Her family thought that after 30 years as head nurse, she would make the right choice, but she ended up opting for conservative treatment. The whole family knew. She was afraid of becoming a burden to everyone. You don't need to worry about money. Money will be solved. Don't we have 2 houses at home? Even if you sell both houses, you'll still have to pay for medical treatment. What 5 years, 10 years? Even if you live for 15 or 20 years, it still won't be enough. Lu Ying also said without hesitation that she was willing to sell the marital home. If it really wasn't enough, she could sell that family heirloom bracelet. Although her mother-in-law was moved, she never agreed. However, what happened next? This made her change her mind. Lu Ying was actually pregnant at that very moment. This undoubtedly gave her the motivation to keep living. But just as she was determined to undergo surgery, a fellow patient in the ward died of a failed operation. Li Xuanqing was terrified. She feared she too would quietly and silently slip away. Faced with the food her husband handed her, she had no desire to eat it. After learning the situation, Lu Ying understood what her mother-in-law was thinking, and then instructed her father-in-law and Shirley not to come in if they heard anything happen. And so the opening scene unfolded. Let me tell you, if you weren't shit as mom, my attitude would be even worse. What are you doing? The doctor heard the commotion in the ward and came to check. The father and son comforted them before leaving. Meanwhile, the hospital room was still bustling with noise. Lu Ying mocked her mother-in-law, saying that isn't she the head nurse? How could she not accept birth, aging, sickness, and death? Her father-in-law worked so hard to cook, so why didn't he eat a single bite and even knocked it on the floor? If you're scared, just say so. She was just scared. Her mother-in-law excitedly pointed to the empty bed nearby. The person who had been chatting with her yesterday was dead today. Under Lu Ying's repeated pressure, her mother-in-law grew more and more aggrieved. She admits she's scared. She was afraid of going into surgery and getting anesthesia. Then she knew nothing and died just like that. Lu Ying quietly held her mother-in-law, comforting her and letting her vent. Since she had made her decision, she had to cooperate with her family and doctors for proper treatment. Li Xuanqing's emotions gradually stabilized, and she understood her daughter-in-law's good intentions. She had done so many things that made people angry, yet Lu Ying still let bygones go ahead. Only now did she understand the saying, a daughter-in-law is half a daughter. Where did you get a wife? I love her so much. 3 months later, Li Xuanqing recovered and was discharged. The first thing she did was to put the family heirloom jade bracelet on Lu Ying, signifying that she was confidently entrusting the family to Lu Ying. The whole family finally sat together. They took a family photo together. Wait a moment, master. We have our own slogan. A harmonious family brings prosperity.